If you're unfamiliar with the game at this point, first of all, you've really been missing out, and secondly, hi, I'm Jeremy and I talk about it a lot. 2MD VR Football Unleashed is a virtual quarterback experience available for the Oculus Quest, and in my opinion, is a must-have game. For those of you on the fence about it, bite the bullet. It's not expensive at all for what you're getting, and it's absolutely the best American football experience on the platform. If you're a fan of the sport, I'm surprised you don't have it yet, but if you just couldn't decide between this game and the Patrick Mahomes experience, I get that, and here's the definitive answer. Get this game. It's way more fun, your throwing is more precise, it's cheaper, and you're supporting a fantastic small studio, so it's an all-around win. The best thing about it is definitely that last part though. The guys over at Truant Pixel are constantly hard at work to update this game, and you're getting new things to do in it all the time. Whenever I stop playing for a few weeks, they'll be on the verge of dropping something massive and I'll get right back into it. It's really a game that keeps me coming back, even after more than a year. Just 6 months ago, you could only throw the ball in 2-minute drills, and as of today, you can catch the ball in a full 60-minute game of Gridiron. It's remarkable how quickly this game is being added to. And thank you to Truant Pixel for allowing me early access to this. Without that, there's no way I could get this video out in time, so I really appreciate it. Since the 1.4 update last November, the one that brought us the exhibition mode, there's really only been one notable thing added, and that's the sample of the catching mechanic. And the field goal practice, but we're choosing to ignore that. Here, you can make this dude throw you either a lob pass or a bullet pass, then get your hands in the proper place and press the trigger when the ball makes contact with them. You can move around a bit, but the dude only threw the ball to where you were standing when you pressed the throw button, so you couldn't really practice catching on the move, but still, it had tons of promise. Catching is very satisfying and works surprisingly well. It feels like a very natural progression for the game, and I'm sure that wasn't an easy thing to do. For about a month, this was all we had to fill our receiver cravings, and boy did I have those. It was freezing outside with a consistent layer of snow, so I was practically stuck indoors, and this didn't do a whole lot for me. This 1.5 update, however, is exactly what I've needed. Starting out with the locker room, you'll notice a solid amount of changes right away. The pieces on the whiteboard aren't just labeled certain positions, now they've got numbers and names, and so do the players in game. While I kinda wish I could give them custom names, it's still really cool, it makes it feel a lot more like you're playing on a team. And speaking of that, there's a team dog. That was the one thing MVP football had that this game didn't, and now, checkmate. The coach looks a lot different too. He no longer looks like Clark Griswold's boss. Instead, he's like Andy Reid from a reality where barbecue ribs don't exist. The biggest addition is this slider on the whiteboard. Rather than choosing between CPU receivers and assisted receiving, you can now select manual receiving, which applies the catching mechanics mentioned earlier to the actual modes. Now after throwing the ball, you'll cut to the perspective of the receiver closest to where the ball is going to land, and have the ability to track it down and make the grab. When this change in perspective occurs, you'll turn to face the ball, and to further move down the field, you'll have to hold down on the stick rather than up. It's not because forward movement is dependent on the direction you're looking though, it locks movement to facing either the end zone or the direction the ball is coming from. A lot of people have said they'd want forward on the stick to move them the way they're facing, but that would make running after the ball way more difficult. Every time you move your head to get a better look, the direction you're holding wouldn't be the way you want to move, and it would be really clunky. This way, you can move to where you want, get the ball right in your field of view, and make the play, and it's by far the best way of doing it. After the ball is secured, the game stops for a set amount of seconds and turns you to face the end zone you're aiming for, which makes forward once again move you the right way. It's definitely a little disorienting to have your view change so much, and I thought the second one especially bogged things down and was a bit unnecessary, but it makes the run after the catch a lot more manageable. And to help you ease into it, you can adjust the time freeze between this second cut and the play resuming. It can be as long as 1.5 seconds, hence the name of the update. Not actually, but if you're struggling to get the hang of it, just crank that until you get more adjusted. That's all the case only if the ball is thrown far enough. If it's a shorter pass, your receiver will usually catch it themselves and you'll get control from there. I'm not sure exactly how it distinguishes between an auto catch and a manual one, but I do know it has something to do with time after release, and not how far it's going to travel. So yes, if you launch the ball skyward to go 5 yards, you'll have the chance to get under it and make the grab, and if you throw a missile 15 yards out, they'll potentially auto catch that. Though there is some room for error, most of the time it does exactly what you want it to do. I was genuinely surprised by how accurate it was. This mode changes the entire way you take on a round, and it adds a very fresh experience to the game. With CPU receivers, I found myself being way more cautious with my throws, because in one-on-ones, they'd usually let it get picked unless I toss an absolute dime. But here, I find myself letting it rip way more, because tracking those deep balls and making crazy grabs is insanely fun, and now it's one of my favorite things to do in this game. This does make it a lot easier though, because now you've got a lot more control over making the plays, and when you're good at the game, it'll really show. It relies less on the computers doing their job and lets you erase that quite occasional jank to how they run their routes or let great passes get picked off. That forced you to make better throws though. You'd have to be smart with the football and very precise with your aim. They don't jump for those high passes or go down for the low ones, which makes it the most challenging quarterback experience the game can offer. So when I want to play for some precision passing, I'll be playing with bot receivers, and when I want to just moss some defenders, I'll be playing manual. This is such a game-changing update, and that alone would make this one of the biggest and best this game has gotten, but that's only the start of it. If you've been paying attention, you'll probably notice that some clips look a lot nicer than others, and that's because this game's received a graphical overhaul. For owners of the first Oculus Quest system, it unfortunately isn't enhanced for you guys, but for the Quest 2 gang out there, this game is gorgeous. When you start the game for the first time and the round is announced while those helmets clash, you'll immediately notice that they actually have shadows, and if you were impressed by that, you might want to sit down. The visual style of this game has been pushed to its limits. Everything has real-time shadows and lighting, more clear and vibrant textures, and higher anti-aliasing, which all come together to make the field look so much better. But that's not all. There's tons of new details on the sidelines too. You can see your defense hanging out and celebrating when you make a play. There's cheerleaders, your coach, referees, hell, even the people in the stands are a little more unique. They'll hold up different signs depending on in-game scenarios, and it's a nice touch that really brings everything together. They apparently tweaked your running speed as quarterback too. I guess you move slower than the receivers before, and they increased that pace to match the receivers, but I didn't notice a huge difference. What is noticeable, however, is the added ability to help you evade tackles. Before, stiff arms were your only option, and they were pretty cool, but now pressing in the left or right stick will make you spin that direction and out of a tackle, which, once mastered, is super beneficial. You can't just spam it though, it actually has a 2-second cooldown, which is very necessary because it would break the game. Okay, so I think that's everything. It's at least all the notable stuff, and that's a ton of new things that once again make this game feel brand new. They've added everything I could possibly want in a VR football game, and then some. It turned to must-buy status when they added the exhibition mode, but at this point, it's an actual no-brainer. It's such a fun, replayable, and complete experience that it's my personal favorite on the Quest. So at this point, the real question is, where can they go from here? As I said before, they've done more than enough to satisfy me, and I think a lot of other players feel the exact same, but I thought of a couple small additions that could make it that much better. The first is something to improve your options when it comes to trick plays. As it is now, as soon as you cross the line of scrimmage, you can't let go of the ball until the play is blown dead. I get it, you can't throw the ball forward once you cross the blue line, but it is legal to throw it backwards, and I really wish you could. That would really open the door for more immersive and creative plays, and I think it would be awesome. It would probably be a little too OP though, and they'd really have to adapt the defensive CPU to account for it, which is a drastic undertaking. Also, they'd have to figure out a way to handle players attempting a forward pass after crossing the line. I mean, there are referees now, maybe they can blow the play dead and send you back a few yards, but I don't know. And with more lateral options, allow players to fumble the ball. If they let go while running, the ball should be dropped and potentially recovered by the other team. They could also implement an RNG system that allows the ball to be stripped. Currently, you can easily get 2 yards of play by simply running right up the middle and holding the ball out in front of you, which makes goal line offense as easy as moving forward. If there was a solid chance of the ball being knocked out, that might stray players away from that and force them to make a different kind of play. You could even make the controller vibrate when there's a potential fumble, and if the player doesn't quickly pull the ball toward them, it could fall out. Keep in mind, I'm just brainstorming here and having a little fun. I have no idea if these things are doable or even make sense to add. What does make sense to add is an option for 2-point conversions in the exhibition mode, because I've been screwed by it not being there a couple times now. After a touchdown is scored, let players choose to hold A for a 2-point try or B for a 1-point try, similarly to how they can elect to try a field goal or punt while on the field. And you can make players have to earn that 1 extra point by throwing the ball through the crossbars like a field goal, but from a closer spot. Also, add overtime for exhibition. I've gotten a few ties and it was a letdown when the game just abruptly ended. I was gonna end the video abruptly there for comedic purposes, but I still got more to say. Don't use the crappy NFL overtime rules that rely on a coin flip. Throw a few more minutes on the clock and just let players drive down the field as normal. Yes, I'm salty about the Bills' loss. One of the most popular requests is for an option to play a series of exhibition games in a season of sorts, and I think that would be pretty cool. That's the one thing MVP football has that this game doesn't. Yeah, there is still something, but it's really not a big deal when the gameplay here is miles better. The most requested addition, however, is for playable defense, and I can see why, but it's 1, a pretty big ask, and 2, not something that would work well for VR. I'm not against it, nor am I saying they couldn't find a way to make it fun, because they absolutely could, but I can't really think of a solid solution for it. But if you're one of the people requesting it, I'd like to know how you'd want it to work down in the comments. How would different coverages be called? Which position would you play? And how would tackling work? Just things like that. And then there's the ever-elusive online play debate, which I'm all for, but I still don't know if that's really possible with current VR technology. You can stream the game though. Buying it on Quest gives you a PC version as well, and if you play that through Oculus Link, you can capture footage or play live, which is really neat. Maybe I'll try it sometime. And with that said, that's all I got for you today. If you enjoyed this video and want to stay up to date on all things virtual reality football, you already know what to do. Thanks for watching, huge thank you once again to True and Pixel for continuing to make this game better, and please, have a great day.